Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Living on Lemonade podcast. As always, I am your host, Lauren. I have been procrastinating a little bit for this episode. Couple reasons. One, I wanted to give some space between the math, like the class, the monthly class from last week and part two recording with Teresa, just because they're both long episodes. So I thought I'll break it up a little bit and have a shorter one or two in between. And also, different from usual, I have had so many topics that I want to talk to you about, and just not getting organized to actually sit down and record maybe multiple episodes. So here I am, Monday at 2:51 p.m. I don't have this week's episode out yet, according to like the current time. And it was kind of one of those things where last night I was supposed to drop off my car to get the oil changed. Now in our small town, I drop it off the night before, I throw the key in the box thing, and then they just call me when it's done. They just fit me in kind of wherever. And I totally forgot. I remembered as I was laying down around midnight, I'd just been reading and I thought, oh my God, I totally forgot. And by that time, my husband was sleeping. So I couldn't have him follow me and then bring me home. And I had already been out for an hour walk, so I really didn't want to drive my car over to the shop and then walk back the 15 or 20 minutes by myself at midnight. Anyway, I woke up pretty early and it was after they opened, but within the first hour, so I thought I better get my butt up. Normally, I like to sleep in when I'm switching from days to nights, which is my first night shift today. But adulting calls and I got my butt up, drove it over, walked back, and I just went and picked it up a few minutes ago. And in between that, I was doing a few things. I had a chat with a friend and a few other things. And I just was like, oh my gosh, it's already, I'm looking at the time like, oh, I need to figure out what I'm doing, finish up what I need to do, and lay down. So here I am recording. I I have an idea of what I want to talk about, and I think I can maybe bring in another theme with it as well. And essentially, I just want to talk today about how following the nudges has just opened up a level of magic in me that I did not know was possible. Yesterday, or was it yesterday? Anyway, recently, I felt the nudge to go back and listen to some replays in this kind of intuitive development program that I'm in, and we have group calls and the replays are there to look back on, take notes, etc. So I went back to October and essentially just listened to the part for me so that I can make notes about where I was at that time, what I was looking forward to, or where I was struggling, or what the intuitive nudges were at that time to see if like, have I followed through? It was kind of like a check-in. And it was interesting that October was what, 5 months ago? And there's been a whole lot of evolution. So it was a very like quick time because it only took a couple hours to kind of go through them. But I got to see very quickly how much has changed since then, like back to back to back, because I'm just listening and taking notes, reflecting, listening, taking notes, etc. And one, like, I'll point out a couple things here that kind of jumped out at me. For one, in October, I started feeling the nudge to purge. And I've been talking about this in the podcast over the last few months here and there as I've been going. I've done a massive amount. There's still kind of things to work through. Some of it's just like as I go, and some will need like a second pass through when I have a few other things done. I'm deep into quilting season right now. I've been busy with that and pumping out quilt tops, and I just bought backing and binding fabric a few days ago. So I have two more sitting on my ironing board right now, waiting to be pinned, quilted, binding put on, and then they're finished. And one that's already pinned. So I'll rip all my days off. I should be able to if I make time and stay focused, pump out 3 more, which is awesome. Anywho, at the time, I was getting the nudge to purge. And what was really interesting was my mentor got really excited and she said, "That's amazing." And I get so excited when I hear that because it means that you're clearing space for something big that's going to happen. Like there's something big that's coming down the pipes essentially. And there's a correlation that sometimes not only do we need to clear out like emotional space when we do healing and energetic work, but when we clear out physical spaces, it has the same idea, right? It's clearing space for things to come in. Doesn't have to be just emotional. There's just it's all energetic, even clearing physical spaces. So I started feeling the nudge to that. I was doing it in a very beautiful, sustainable way. My goal was I wrote a list so that I could kind of track like where have I been, where am I going? And pick areas that it's like, okay, well, I feel like working on a space, but maybe I don't want to tackle an entire closet right now, but I could do a drawer. So then it gave me the flexibility to decide like what felt right for me so I didn't feel overwhelmed or I didn't feel pressured to get it all done. And then on the days where it's like there was one day I just wasn't feeling well, I was under the weather. I did some reading, but then I felt kind of like doing a bit of looking through stuff. So I tackled a closet because I had a few hours and I could just sit there kind of sorting through things, doing a trash pile, donate pile, keep pile kind of thing. So it's just having the awareness of um not putting the pressure on yourself, like knowing what your goals are, but feeling out the energy of when it feels right to do it, and then choosing the task that also suits where you are in that moment. Reminds me very much of yoga practice, and it's just showing up to yourself every day. And maybe yesterday you could do tree pose, maybe today you have no balance, but it's showing up where you are in that moment and not comparing it to anything but just being in that moment and checking in with yourself. As it stands, I have one more bin, it's my Barbies. I have a feeling that is going to be very emotional when I go through it because it's like childhood stuff. I think it's might bring some stuff up. So I've been kind of leaving it there for a time where I feel like I can kind of go there, if you know what I mean, and be I don't want to have to rush through it. I want to be able to process whatever comes up, if anything comes up. And the rest of it, I've been working on my projects that I put on the list to do after I had done most of the purge, if not all. So I started listening and acting on those nudges, and it's brought me to now the end of March. So this was back in October, fall and December. I went through every space in my house except for the Barbie bin. I'll get through there. And I do feel as if, based on this and other things, that I really did create space for what has recently been happening and the magic within it. The next thing that stuck out to me about this was there's the creating the space. Oh, it was a recent one. I feel like there might have been another one, but it's floated away from me for the time being. The next one that really caught my attention was recently, I think it was last month, and it was while I was launching the program that I'm running right now. And I'll tell you the difference between how I normally teach and what's happening this time. And it's different. And I feel like there's been a shift of energy. There's been a number of moving parts I think that have created this situation. And I'm just seeing how they all fit. But essentially, normally when I put together a training, I'm very well organized, researched. I create lots of notes to guide me. Sometimes, actually, most times I would have kind of a slideshow presentation to help guide me on exactly what I talk about. I wouldn't do it more as like ad lib. And that worked well for me. This time, when I got quiet, I felt the nudge to create a program, and it very much felt the energy, and it felt like sharing a lot of what I've just come out of and have embodied over the last 2 years after losing my dad and the family dynamic and kind of like little T trauma stuff around that, emotional stuff. So I knew the theme, and when I got quiet, went into meditation, I got the program name, I got the price, I got add-ons, I received the bonus, I received the module names. I knew that it was going to be 5 weeks, all well and good. So I was able to launch this program. I had the capacity, was I knew that I didn't want any more than 13 people. Other than that, I felt the real need to just surrender and fully commit, because there's been times where I've tried to kind of launch things in between the last one that I ran and this one, that I didn't have the energy driving it, and I kind of sabotaged it honestly and gave up on it before it could even do anything. So those weren't successful, and I'll be completely transparent. I can there's learning points in there, right? I think it's another topic we can talk about another time, but I just wanted to mention it. Anyway, this one felt very grounded, very um there was no way I wasn't going to carry it out, like fully committed in my energy to this program. Now, I had 2 people sign up, which is incredible. And I could have easily made that wrong and made that about me and decided what's wrong with me that people don't want to work with me and people haven't signed up, and what did I do wrong to in the launching? Should I have changed the price or whatever? But truthfully, everything came to me and it felt like a yes, and I went with it. And I made the commitment as I was getting into this, that it doesn't matter if one person or 13 people sign up. I'm running this program and I'm running it with the exact same energy either way. And I know with the first person that popped in, they said, it's a, if it's just me, I wouldn't be offended if you didn't want to run it. And I said, oh, like it's happening. So if it's just you and I, it's going to be extra potent. And having 2 people, it's just, what I know now is it was exactly as it was supposed to be. Um, and here's why. So when I started to get organized, planning the first module, the first live training, normally I like to have it all kind of laid out. It's a safety thing, right? It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel confident, like I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to mess up. It's an ego thing. And it just wasn't coming to me. It wasn't available to me. I couldn't see all the steps like I normally do. And I got curious and I decided I'm just going to lean into it. So what do I need? I jotted down like a few loose notes, and what I felt the need to do was to really ground before I start teaching, which I always do anyway, and just lean into like, what does this have for me? And each week we have a meditation, and I just felt like my intuition or whatever it is brought me through, like, this is kind of the lay of the land, and it was right before I taught. And then I just kind of went live, and trusted that the information that was meant to be brought through me would, and in a way that would be received to the people listening now and in the future. If this, I think I'm going to create an evergreen. I really like the live energy, but it's nice to have both options, especially when I'm in the summer months and can't teach live. It's too busy. And the it's hard to put into words how potent this ended up being, just by following these little breadcrumbs of, I can't see far ahead of me. It's like walking through fog. You just see what you can, and you trust that as you walk through, things will unfold and you'll be safe. I also want to stress too, one of the differences between previous launches and this one is I had a lot of nerves around it. Like every time I created content to talk about it, I had this fear of being seen. I would get so nervous before I hit post, and I'll be totally honest, because anyone who is or will go down this path, I don't want to sugarcoat it so you think that you're alone in this. I want to tell you about my journey so you can be like, "Oh, I resonate with that. Thank God I'm not the only one." but it once I released it out, it felt like I got something off my chest. It's like, oh, this is so, because it feels like this course is pouring out of me and I can't not talk about it, but there's still those ego fears. And by following those breadcrumbs and taking the action even while I'm afraid, it's turned out so beautifully. I haven't stopped myself. And after the first module and the meditation, what the meditation brought us through was essentially meeting our own souls, going into that like beautiful heart space, seeing what it's like. Each person got to have their own experience, and they really felt that safety in that love. And as it turns out, that was the foundation of what we are building on now, because then the second module, we went back into that safe space and we went a little bit deeper. We were talking about identity and past versions of ourselves, which can bring up some stuff when we start to look at it and see where we were, and we can see and feel some of the pain. But to have established that safe space, it made it a little easier to navigate that. And what I realized after is some of the things I was saying, like I'm at a point where I'm going to take my own course, because it's just like it's beyond my own comprehension of what I would have been able to imagine or uh, what's the word? Like left brain, like create within my own mind. It is beyond that, but I had to fully surrender and just follow the breadcrumbs and walk in the fog. And I realized how incredibly potent and impactful this work is and can be, and that I would not have been able to deliver this before where I am now, because I have done so much deep diving, so much soul searching, like full dark night of the soul, going through the void, going through the darkness. I've talked about the darkness in great length and detail, and coming out the other end and having this like fully embodied experience because I allowed myself to go through it. Now I have so much wisdom, and then there's extra magic sparkled on top because I'm surrendering and just delivering what comes through me. But being able to now have the capacity that I've built up through what I wanted to say earlier and got sidetracked was supporting my nervous system during the launch and through this experience, because it's very vulnerable, and I realize the depth and the impact that this type of work can have on people, and I want to make sure that I'm guiding them from a place where not only do I feel safe and I have capacity for myself, but I also have the capacity to hold space for others and allow them and guide them to find their own safety within themselves. And that's really been an anchor and a theme in this course, this Build Your Soul Care Toolbelt course, because now, like, one of the feedback was, I saw an experience that I have not been able to unpack through decades, and I now feel like I can go to this safe place and really look at it and not be afraid of it and start to process it even though it's uncomfortable. And just that, it's all just blowing me away. And really at the bottom root of this, circling back, is just how much beauty and impact and magic has unfolded over the last few months through getting curious, listening to my inner voice, my intuition, and then actually following those nudges. And one more thing, I remember now what the other thing in the middle was that I had forgotten before. I was feeling a nudge, and I proclaimed it during one of the calls that I felt like I should not, okay, I don't want to say should. I felt the pull to start a daily spiritual practice. And I didn't know what that was going to look like, but I was already doing a 10-minute morning meditation before I got up out of bed. And then a month or so later, it actually started just after the new year. Every morning now, I pull an oracle card. I set the intention that I want a morning, like a message for the day, some inspiration, some guidance, some wisdom, and it helps to set the tone of the day. But I'm also spending time with my soul. That's what I've come to realize. And I really attribute listening to that nudge, carrying it out, and having it as a regular practice, making sure that every single day I'm showing up, spending time with my soul. The meditation, I do a little bit of breath work as I'm waking up that serves my kind of mental health and setting, helping to set the stage for a positive start to the day, essentially. And then what I've also realized, and again, this will be another topic for another episode that I'm going to dive deeper into because I think it's really important to talk about, but I've felt the urge lately to start moving my body more and really commit to that. And I'm seeing how mind, body, and soul, I had really been focusing on mind and soul. I'm bringing the body in. And I think that in order to be able to deliver these teachings and this wisdom and stuff, I have to have all three integrated, and I have to be kind of refined and building the strength in all three of those areas of my life, which is it's really cool. So bottom line, I'm gonna finish this up because I hope who knows how long it is. I try to keep things short, and it ends up being like 20-25 minutes. So that seems to be kind of my norm. Anyway, bottom line, when you get those nudges, first of all, create the space so that you can hear them, because the voice of our soul, the voice of our intuition is quiet, and it gets muffled out by the ego and our day-to-day squirrel brain stuff. So create space in your day for that. And then when you really get that urge, that nudge, especially if it's consistent and you keep getting it, it's not going away and it gets a little bit louder each time, explore it, get curious, follow the nudges. I can tell you from experience right now, 5 months of following the nudges, I am delivering the most profound training and teaching and mentoring that I didn't know I was even capable of. And I really attribute it to following the nudges and following the breadcrumbs. So, anywho, time for me to finish a couple things and lay down for a nap. I hope everyone's doing well and having a great day or whatever time of day you're listening to this. And I'm excited to record some more episodes and get ahead of the game, have some stuff pre-scheduled. I did that a while back and it felt so good to have like a month of content scheduled. So I'm going to get back there. As you know, I've just been doing a whole lot of things that also fill my soul. So sometimes we get behind in others. All right, have a wonderful one. And as always, you can find me on Instagram, Ms. Lauren Gilhula, Facebook. It'll be all in the show notes. Come hang out in the Living on Lemonade group. It's such a goodie. I am starting another one of the things I've been feeling the nudges to is to start creating more content for that group. Right now, it's just been building my own capacity in other areas so that I can have more capacity for this group to do exactly what I want to do. And it's been really great. Soul care hour was last night. We had beautiful conversations around soul care and ideas and how to work through some stuff that we're going through. That's monthly. Also, when I talk about in following my intuition, I am now offering intuitive readings. All of the details are in the Living on Lemonade group. If you want an intuitive reading, check it out. Send me a message. I'll give you all the details. Any questions, reach out. And if this podcast is resonating with you, I would love for you to share it with someone you think that it would benefit so that we can create more impact, get it out into the world more, and just share our experiences and our humanity together so that we can make this world a better place. But it starts with other people sharing it, because I only know so many people. All right. Have a good one, everyone, and I'm officially signing off. See you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.